When my boss, Richard, hired his nephew Kevin fresh out of college, he asked me to show him the ropes. I'd been the company's top sales director for 8 years, built the entire West Coast division from nothing, trained dozens of successful reps. Mentoring the boss's nephew seemed like a minor addition to my responsibilities. Kevin's bright but inexperienced, Richard told me in his office. I'm counting on you to teach him the business. Think of it as an investment in the company's future. I took it seriously. Spent hours explaining client relationships, sharing strategies I'd developed over years of trial and error, introducing Kevin to contacts I'd spent a decade cultivating. He was eager, asked good questions, took detailed notes. "You're an amazing teacher," he'd say after our sessions. "I'm learning so much from you." After 2 years, Richard promoted Kevin to senior sales associate, the position directly below mine. "He's ready for more responsibility," Richard explained. "You've done such a great job mentoring him." I was proud. I'd helped develop talent, proved my value to the company beyond just my own numbers. Then last week, I accidentally received an email meant for Richard's inbox. Our email addresses were similar. Mine was jcostecompany.com. His was rcostecompany.com. The sender had mistyped. The subject line read, "Kevin's Transition Timeline." And the first line said, "Per our discussion, Kevin will assume Jennifer's role and client list effective January 1st, salary $240K. Jennifer's severance package attached." My name is Jennifer Costa, and this is my story about how I spent 5 years training my replacement without knowing it, and how one leaked email exposed the truth I'd been too loyal to see. I stared at that email for a full minute without breathing. Read it 3 times to make sure I understood what I was seeing. Kevin's transition timeline. Kevin assuming my role. My client list. Effective January 1st. 3 weeks away. My severance package. I scrolled down, found a detailed document outlining how my responsibilities would be transferred to Kevin over the next month, which clients he'd take over first, which projects would transition, how they'd announce my departure to the team. There was a salary figure, $240,000. I was currently making $180,000. They were giving my job to Kevin, who I'd trained for 2 years, and paying him $60,000 more than they paid me. My hands started shaking. I'd been with this company for 8 years, built the West Coast division from 3 clients to over 100, exceeded sales targets every single quarter, won Regional Director of the Year 3 times, and they were firing me, replacing me with a 26-year-old I'd personally trained, paying him more than they'd ever paid me, and planning to announce it like I'd chosen to leave. The severance package was attached. I opened it. 6 weeks. After 8 years of service, they were offering me 6 weeks of severance, the legal minimum. There was a non-compete clause that would prevent me from working in the industry for 2 years, a non-disparagement agreement preventing me from saying anything negative about the company, and a release of all claims, meaning I couldn't sue for wrongful termination or age discrimination. Age discrimination. I was 42 years old. Kevin was 26. They were replacing an experienced woman in her 40s with the boss's nephew, fresh out of college, paying him more, and trying to force me out with minimal compensation and restrictive agreements. The email had been sent 3 days ago. The recipient list included Richard, the CEO, the head of HR, and the company's legal counsel. They'd been planning this for weeks, maybe months. While I'd been training Kevin, introducing him to my clients, teaching him my strategies, they'd been planning to replace me with him. I thought back over the last 2 years, every client meeting where Richard had insisted Kevin attend, every strategy session where Kevin took detailed notes, every relationship I'd introduced him to. I hadn't been mentoring the company's future talent. I'd been training my own replacement. You okay? My assistant Sarah appeared in my doorway. You look pale. I closed the email quickly. I'm fine. Just a headache. Want me to grab you some ibuprofen? No, thanks. I'm going to take an early lunch. I grabbed my purse and left the office before anyone could stop me. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, reading the email over and over, letting the reality sink in. They were going to fire me in 3 weeks. During the transition, they'd have me continue training Kevin, helping him take over my accounts, probably framing it as me being a team player during my transition to new opportunities. Then on January 1st, they'd announce my departure, probably with some generic statement about pursuing other interests or spending time with family. Kevin would step seamlessly into my role, with all my clients, all my relationships, all my strategies, and I'd be locked out of the industry for 2 years by the non-compete, unable to say anything negative, by the non-disparagement clause, with 6 weeks of severance to show, for 8 years of building their West Coast division. My phone buzzed. Text from Richard. Can you and Kevin meet me at 2 p.m. to discuss Q1 strategy? Q1 strategy, the quarter I wouldn't be here for. The quarter Kevin would be running my division. Were they planning to tell me today? Or were they going to string me along for 3 more weeks, extracting every last bit of knowledge they could before cutting me loose? I needed to think, needed to plan, needed to figure out my next move before they figured out I knew. I started the car and drove. Not home. I couldn't go home yet. Not back to the office. Just drove. My phone rang. Sarah. I let it go to voicemail. Rang again. Richard this time. Voicemail. Text from Kevin. Hey, Jennifer. Richard wants to meet at 2 p.m. You around? Kevin. The eager mentee who'd hung on my every word. Who I'd championed for a promotion. Who'd been playing me for 2 years while angling to take my job. Had he known from the beginning? Or had Richard brought him into the plan later? Either way, he'd gone along with it. Had sat through hours of training, smiled, and thanked me, and called me an amazing teacher, all while knowing he was being groomed to replace me. I pulled into a Starbucks parking lot, ordered coffee I didn't drink, sat at a corner table, and started making a list. What I knew, they planned to fire me January 1st. Kevin was taking my job at higher pay. They had severance documents ready with restrictive clauses. This had been planned for weeks, months. I'd been training my replacement without knowing it. What they didn't know. I'd seen the email. I knew their timeline. I had 3 weeks to prepare what I needed. A lawyer, copies of everything, evidence of my contributions, a plan. I opened my laptop, started with email, forwarded the mistyped email to my personal account, then started systematically forwarding 8 years of documentation. Sales reports showing my division's growth, emails from clients praising my work, awards and recognition, performance reviews. Every piece of evidence that proved my value and their decision to replace me was based on something other than performance. Then I opened our company's shared drive, started downloading files, client lists, strategy documents, market analysis I'd created, training materials I'd developed, everything I'd built over 8 years. My phone kept buzzing, Richard calling, Sarah calling, Kevin texting. I ignored them all. By the time I finished, I had 8 years of work backed up to 3 different locations: cloud storage, external hard drive, email archive. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Morrison, and she specialized in employment law. Wrongful termination, discrimination, contract disputes. I told her everything. The email, the plan, Kevin, the severance package with its restrictive clauses. How old is Kevin? She asked. 26. And you're? 42. Gender? I'm female. Kevin's male. She was quiet for a moment. And Kevin is Richard's nephew? Yes. This is textbook age and gender discrimination combined with nepotism, she said. They're replacing an experienced woman in her 40s with the boss's young male relative, paying him more, and trying to force you out with minimal severance and restrictive agreements that would prevent you from working in your field. Can they do that? They can try. But if we can prove discrimination, those restrictive agreements won't hold up. The question is whether you want to fight this or negotiate a better exit. I want to fight. Fighting means litigation. Could take years. Will be expensive and emotionally draining. And even if we win, you might not want to work in an industry where everyone knows you sued your former employer. What's the alternative? We use what you know as leverage. They don't know you've seen the email, right? Right. Then we have the element of surprise. We can negotiate a better severance package, removal of the restrictive clauses, and a neutral reference. Make it expensive enough that they'll pay to avoid litigation. How expensive? Based on your tenure and the discrimination issues, I'd push for a year's salary minimum, full benefits continuation, no restrictive clauses, and a neutral reference letter. Maybe more if we can document damages to your career prospects. A year's salary, $180,000, plus benefits, plus my freedom to work anywhere I wanted. And if they don't agree, then we file suit for age and gender discrimination, wrongful termination, and violation of equal pay laws. Discovery will be brutal for them. We'll subpoena all communications about your termination, Kevin's hiring and promotion, salary data for the entire company, make it very public and very expensive. Do it, I said. You're sure? Once we start this, there's no going back to normal. Normal is them firing me in 3 weeks after I spent 2 years training my replacement. I don't want normal. Okay, Patricia said. First things first. Don't let on that you know. Go to that 2 p.m. meeting. Act like everything's fine. Let them think they still have the element of surprise. Meanwhile, I'll draft a demand letter. We'll send it Monday morning before they have a chance to tell you themselves. What do I do until then? Document everything. Every meeting, every conversation, every interaction with Richard or Kevin. Save everything to personal accounts. And start looking for a new job. Quietly. Because even with a good settlement, you're going to need to land somewhere else. I went to the 2 p.m. meeting, sat across from Richard and Kevin in the conference room where I'd led strategy sessions for 8 years. Smiled. Acted normal. Thanks for meeting on short notice, Richard said. I wanted to discuss Q1 planning. Jennifer, I'd like Kevin to take a more active role in client management next quarter. Give him some hands-on experience. Of course, I said. Which accounts were you thinking? Maybe start with the Morrison Group? I know they're one of your key relationships, but Kevin's ready for that level of responsibility. The Morrison Group. My biggest client. The account I'd landed 6 years ago and had grown into a $2 million annual contract. Kevin's definitely ready, I said, feeling sick. I'll set up an introduction. Kevin smiled. I really appreciate this, Jennifer. Learning from you has been incredible. I smiled back. Happy to help. We spent an hour discussing Q1 strategy for a division I wouldn't be running. I took notes, made suggestions, acted like the loyal team player they expected me to be. The whole time. I was thinking about Patricia's demand letter, about the look on Richard's face when he realized I knew, about Kevin's smile disappearing when he understood I wasn't going to go quietly. After the meeting, Kevin walked back to his office with me. Hey, he said, I know I say this all the time, but I really am grateful for everything you've taught me. You're honestly the best mentor I could have asked for. Thanks, Kevin, I said. That means a lot. He had no idea that I'd seen the email. No idea that I knew exactly what he was being groomed for. No idea that in 3 days, everything was going to explode. I spent the weekend documenting everything. Every client I'd brought in. Every strategy I'd developed. Every dollar of revenue my division had generated. Every award I'd won. I also started quietly reaching out to recruiters, updated my LinkedIn profile, put feelers out about opportunities. If Richard thought I was going to spend the next 3 weeks training Kevin and then disappear quietly, he was wrong. Monday morning, Patricia sent the demand letter. It was direct and damning, outlined the discrimination claims, referenced the email I'd inadvertently received, demanded $200,000 in severance, more than a year's salary, full benefits for 18 months, removal of all restrictive clauses, a neutral reference letter, and payment within 30 days. Alternative, litigation. She sent it at 9 a.m., copied Richard, the CEO, HR, and legal counsel. I was at my desk when Richard got it, heard his office door slam from down the hall. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Richard. My office, now. I walked down the hall, knocked on his door. Sit down, he said. His face was red. The demand letter was open on his computer screen. You want to explain this? He gestured at the screen. I accidentally received an email meant for you, I said calmly. About Kevin's transition timeline. About my severance package. About my job being eliminated January 1st. That was confidential. It was sent to my email address by mistake. I didn't hack anything. I just read an email that came to my inbox. And instead of coming to me like a professional, you hired a lawyer and sent this extortion letter? It's not extortion. It's a settlement offer. Alternative to litigation for age and gender discrimination. We're not discriminating. You're firing a 42-year-old woman with 8 years of excellent performance and replacing her with your 26-year-old nephew, who I've been training for 2 years. You're paying him $60,000 more than you paid me. And you were planning to do it all without telling me until the last minute, then forcing me to sign agreements that would prevent me from working in my field for 2 years. That's textbook discrimination. Richard's jaw tightened. Kevin earned that promotion. He's talented. He's talented because I trained him, using strategies I developed. With clients I brought in, I built this division, Richard. I exceeded every target you ever set. And you're replacing me with your nephew and offering me 6 weeks of severance after 8 years. That's the standard. The standard is illegal when it's discriminatory. My lawyers made that very clear. We stared at each other across his desk. You're making a mistake, Richard said. This company has been good to you. We gave you opportunities. I earned everything I got here. Every promotion, every raise, every client. I didn't need opportunities handed to me because of family connections. His face got redder. Get out of my office. Happily. I'll wait to hear from your legal team about the settlement offer. They have until Friday. I walked out. The next 3 days were tense. Richard avoided me. Kevin looked confused and worried. Clearly, Richard had told him something was wrong, but not what. The rest of the team sensed the tension, but didn't know the cause. Sarah asked if I was okay. I told her I was dealing with some company policy issues, nothing to worry about. Wednesday afternoon, I got called to a meeting with Richard, the CEO, Marcus Hamilton, and the head of HR, Diane Chen. Jennifer, Marcus said. He looked tired. We've reviewed your lawyer's letter. These are serious allegations. They're serious actions, I said. I have documentation for all of it. We believe this is a misunderstanding, Diane said. The transition plan was preliminary. Nothing was finalized. The email said, effective January 1st. That's 3 weeks away. Seems pretty finalized. We were exploring options, Marcus said. Kevin has shown strong potential. We were considering expanding his role. That doesn't necessarily mean eliminating yours. The severance package says otherwise. Silence. What do you want? Marcus finally asked. My lawyer outlined the settlement terms. $200,000, 18 months benefits, no restrictive clauses, neutral reference. That's excessive. Litigation will be more expensive. Discovery will reveal every communication about this decision, every salary comparison across the company, every promotion decision made in the last 5 years. You'll have to explain to a jury why you're replacing an experienced woman with the boss's nephew and paying him more. How do you think that will look? More silence. We need time to discuss this, Marcus said. You have until Friday. After that, we file suit. I left the meeting. Thursday morning, Kevin appeared in my doorway. Can we talk? He asked. Sure. He closed the door, sat down, looked uncomfortable. I don't know exactly what's going on, he said. Uncle Richard won't give me details, but I know it's about me somehow, about my promotion. Your promotion to my job, you mean? He flinched. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know that's what was happening. He just said he was grooming me for leadership. I thought it would be a new position, or that you were getting promoted too. Did you really? Or did you just not ask questions because the answer might be inconvenient? He looked down. I should have asked. I should have wondered why I was learning everything about your job. But Uncle Richard said it was normal mentorship, and I wanted to believe him. You're 26, Kevin. You just got promoted to senior associate 2 years out of college. Did that seem normal to you? Did you really think you'd earned that based on merit? I worked hard. I'm sure you did. But there are people here who've worked hard for 10 years and haven't been promoted to senior associate. You got it in 2, because your uncle owns the company. He was quiet. I don't know if you knew from the beginning or if you figured it out later, I said. But at some point, you knew I was training you to take my job, and you went along with it. That's on you. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what it's worth, I really am. You were a great mentor. You didn't deserve this. No, I didn't. He left. I never spoke to him again. Friday morning, Patricia called. They've agreed to settle, she said. Not the full amount. They're offering $150,000, 12 months benefits, removal of restrictive clauses, and a neutral reference letter. That's less than we asked for. It is, but it's more than triple the original severance. It's enough that you can take some time to find the right next position without financial stress. And you're free to work anywhere without restrictions. What about Kevin? What about him? Does he still get my job? That's not covered in the settlement. Technically, they can still promote him. So they win. You win too. You get 6 figures, your freedom, and you don't have to spend the next 2 years in litigation. Sometimes winning isn't about punishing them. It's about getting what you need to move forward. She was right, but it still felt like they were getting away with it. Okay, I said. I'll take the settlement. Good. I'll have the paperwork ready by Monday. You'll sign, they'll wire the money, and you'll be done with them. Done with them. After 8 years of building a division, training staff, exceeding targets, done. I signed the settlement on Monday. The money appeared in my account on Wednesday. My last day was Friday. They announced it as a mutual decision and Jennifer's choice to pursue new opportunities. Kevin was promoted to sales director the same day. My team threw me a going away happy hour where everyone asked what I was doing next, and I had to pretend I'd chosen to leave. Only Sarah knew the truth. I'd told her everything. "This is so wrong," she said. "You built this place." "And now someone else gets to run it," I said. "That's how it works sometimes." "Are you okay?" "I will be." It's been 6 months since I left. 6 months since I signed that settlement and walked away from 8 years of work. I took a month off first. Traveled, processed, dealt with the anger and grief of being pushed out of a place I'd helped build. Then I started interviewing. Found a position as VP of Sales at a competitor. Better title, better salary, $210,000, more than Kevin was making in my old job. Better company culture. I've been there 3 months now. Already exceeded Q1 targets. Already being considered for the executive team. Last week, I ran into one of my old clients at a conference. The Morrison Group, the $2 million account Richard had wanted Kevin to take over. "Jennifer," Tom Morrison hugged me. "I heard you left. We've been working with Kevin, but honestly, it's not the same. He doesn't have your instincts." "He's still learning," I said diplomatically. "He's got your notes, but not your knowledge. There's a difference." Tom paused. "Actually, we've been thinking about putting our account up for review. Would your new company be interested in bidding?" I smiled. "I think we would be very interested." 2 weeks later, the Morrison Group switched to my new company. $2 million in annual business, walking away from Richard's company to follow me. 3 other clients have reached out since then, all asking about my new company, all unhappy with Kevin's handling of their accounts. Richard called me once, furious. "You're poaching my clients." "I'm not poaching anyone. I'm accepting business from companies that choose to work with me. The settlement said I couldn't solicit your clients for 6 months. It's been 6 months. And I haven't solicited anyone? They came to me. This is unethical." What's unethical is firing someone after they build your division and replacing them with your unqualified nephew. I'm just doing my job. Have a nice day, Richard. I hung up. Kevin's struggling. I hear it through industry contacts. He's lost 4 major accounts in 3 months. The division's revenue is down 30%. Richard's making excuses, but everyone knows the truth. Kevin wasn't ready, and I was the one who made it all work. I don't feel bad for them. I built something once. I can build it again. This time for a company that values experience over nepotism. For a boss who doesn't plan to replace me the moment a younger, cheaper option appears. And every client that leaves Richard's company to work with me is a reminder that loyalty goes both ways. You can't expect people to be loyal to a company that treats them as disposable. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment about where you're watching from. And if you've ever trained your own replacement without knowing it, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories, because sometimes the people who ask you to invest in their future are planning to write you out of it. And sometimes the best revenge is building something better than what they took from you.